absolutely. Any good journalist or, I don't know, university professor or something will tell you that a critical early step in developing a persuasive or critical argument is by acknowledging your own biases right off the bat. So I'm going to do it. I am a heterosexual, white, middle-class male, currently in a relationship, and suffering from what could be called depression. And that's my relevant bias in discussing Keaton Henson's birthdays. Keaton Henson had an album in 2010, I believe, called Dear, that had, it was sad folk music, essentially, something that everybody is familiar with at this point. But what made Dear so profoundly affecting was, it was largely stripped down. It was all acoustic instrumentation, percussion was very spare, and electric instrumentation was toned down quite a bit. So there was that, and then there was this straightforwardness in his lyricism. You've got guys like Conor Oberst and the tallest man on earth, or Nick Drake, even if you want to go further back, that were doing this kind of sad folk music thing for a long time. But they always they had a tendency, some of them more than others, to play around with their language a little bit. Keaton Henson didn't fuck around with that. He had feelings, and he was going to make them known, and he was going to throw them in your face. And on birthdays, we are continuing to see that with something of a sonic departure. Keaton Henson still has his kind of weak, borderline falsetto kind of quivery voice, which is very good. But he's fusing these elements on here. It's still at its core a folk album, with electronic instrumentation and these huge sounding string parts that he throws in here, and occasional post-rock kind of appearances, and we'll talk about those in detail later on. The thing that makes Birthdays such a phenomenal album to me, Keaton Henson seems to make a point of having at least one line on each song that knocks the listener flat and has you clutching at your chest in kind of melancholic pain. Just going down the ones that stood out to me here. Oh, you know what? I'm not connected. I fucked up pretty bad there. Let me just okay. But yeah, like I was saying, one line per song usually that totally knocks you flat. And I'm going to specify in just a minute here. And if you must die, sweetheart, die knowing your life was my life's best part. That is on 10 a.m. Gare du Nord. I did not pronounce that properly, and I don't even give a fuck. Something that's interesting about Keaton Henson is these, it might not seem like it because most of his songs are based on interpersonal relationships and marriages and dating and things, but these aren't romantic things, and these aren't, these aren't, I don't want to say, I'm gonna say it. they're not real problems. You know, Keaton Henson in his lyrics admits a lot of the time, and it's something that a lot of his listeners often have to admit to themselves, that these are problems that his lifestyle creates. You know, and his lifestyle could be due to some kind of fear of social interaction or fear of how he's perceived. But when it comes down to it, these aren't healthy emotions that he's singing about. You know, I want to go back to this one song again, 10 a.m. Guide Du Nord, is about kind of a devouring love, obsession with someone that you know there's no way in a million years they're going to reciprocate it. There's this one line in that song, and this song really stood out to me, so I'm probably going to talk a lot about it. But I'm sorry, this is taking me a while here. I should have probably prepared for this a little bit more, but fuck that. Tire of me, if you will, my dear, I will not tire of you. I'm afraid I might die for you now. That's not how people are supposed to feel. If you ask anybody, they're going to say, that's fucked. That's not healthy. Stop. But Keaton Henson revels in these emotions. And it's, you know, it's like Vic Chestnut used to kind of dwell on feelings of suicide or feelings of extreme isolation. Keaton Henson's doing the same thing, just with different subject matter. And I think the reason why it works so well is because he knows who he's writing songs for. He's writing songs for people that feel the way that he does, people like myself sometimes. And this simple language that he has a way of using really drives that shit home. But anyway, let's get more back to Birthday's specific stuff. It's not all total whining the whole way through, which I know might seem like kind of a shock, especially after this first kind of knee-jerk, hyped-up reaction of all these people on Tumblr or on 4chan or whatever about how they're crying the whole way through. It's not necessarily the case. There's this one song on here, Beekeeper, that's structured like a ballad and is very melodic and very message driven, more so than it is a narrative of some romance gone awry. There's this other song on here, Kronos, that's this very loud and aggressive, desperate song. So that kind of separates it from self-loathing a little bit. There's Don't Swim. Don't Swim is a phenomenal song. If I had to choose one song off this album to just kind of get really, really unnecessarily excited about right off the bat, which I know I shouldn't do, but I'm gonna do it anyway, it's Don't Swim, because Don't Swim is this, it's very similar to a lot of the stuff we heard on Deer with electronic instrumentation, and this time he's thrown these close harmonies on here that are just absolutely lavish and beautiful, and the ending of this song, it's this quiet, don't swim, and then just noise, just this wall of loud guitars and percussion just throws itself at you, and you gotta deal with it. You overcome with this, and you gotta slog your way through it. And I think that's really the profound emotional impact that you should take away from this album. It's going to be on Don't Swim. Because it fuses the lyricism with, the feeling in the music so well. And I know I'm not being very professional by saying it feels good. It feels good, but it just fucking feels right. there are rumors bouncing around right now that this is a narrative concept album. Don't buy into them. If I am going to have a complaint about this album, an objective complaint, it's going to be that the production is often a bit unclear, which is problematic in a record that is so lyrically driven. There are moments where you will struggle to understand what Keaton Henson is saying. And, you know, if you have the initiative, I mean, I want to hear this record again, and I'm sure I'm going to listen to it several more times, but it's going to take a while to really get all of the words hammered out. So yeah, Keaton Henson, Birthdays. If I were to just give it a knee-jerk reaction right now, I'd say probably a 7.5 out of 10. Just, I want to keep it low just in case it starts to wear on me a little bit later on, but in the meantime, on the first listen, I was pretty blown away. There's some beautiful lush arrangements. It's powerful. It's a really powerful record. I think that it's more powerful than Deer, even. More affecting than Deer. More desperate than Deer. And, yeah, Keaton Henson, Birthdays. Check it out. You're probably going to anyway.